Hello, everyone, and welcome to Off the Shelf, a show where we take things off the shelf and talk about them because everything has a story. If you are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Rick. Hit that like and subscribe button and also hit that notification bell. We would really appreciate it. Also, check out our merch store. All the links are down below. Joining me on the shelf, as always, is the man who loves all things Star Trek, Captain Joe Dove. How are you, Joe?
Good. And I'm not alone today, a person that loves all things Star Trek, and we'll get into that. But I'm happy to be the captain in the house and joined by another. So peace and long life to you, Matthew.
I feel out of place here because I'm not a techie guy. And joining us for the first time on the show, and we are very excited to have him on the show all the way from Nerd News Today. Matthew, welcome. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thank you guys so much for having me today.
Our pleasure. We are very excited. When Joe told me you were on and what you collect, I was very, very excited. So, Joe, let's get into this, mate. All
right, here we go. That's my grandpa.
All right, Matt. What do you collect? What are we talking about today?
I collect way too much stuff. That's what I collect. I collect a lot of dust primarily. It's a lot of stuff. I think my collecting days go as far back as when I was a little itty bitty Matthew. I can remember my very first action figure that I ever had. And over the years, even as a kid, I wasn't the kind of kid who smashed my toys together when I play with them. I was always very nice and gentle. They had their stories, they had their good times, but I wasn't the kid throwing them off of buildings and chucking them onto traffic. So, a lot of those childhood toys stuck with me, and that's also influenced a lot of what I collect these days. Currently, the main stuff that I'm collecting is, there's a lot of wrestling figures. There's a lot of Ninja Turtles, a lot of Ghostbusters, a good amount of Star Trek, of course, an occasional Star Wars here and there. I gotta look around and see what else I got going on here. I mentioned pro wrestling, but I also should add an addendum to that. I'm not just talking like WWE and old WCW 90s things. I'm also talking Japanese wrestling toys.
Wow.
Japanese wrestling toys fan
I
as
saw that. I was like, wait a minute, I never had any of those. What's going on here? Because I don't know if it's like a Star Trek thing, but most Star Trek guys are also into wrestling. Here's my very first toy ever. The Big Boss Man from the 90s. So yeah, we're in good company here.
Yeah. Other than that, it's really just a bunch of different things. I mean, I've got a lot of NECA stuff. I've got a lot of other things. I have some, higher end collectibles. I got some lower end stuff. I'm also just like a fan of the art of the action figures. So a lot of times I could just be in a store somewhere, and if I see something that calls to me, I will get it, even if I don't collect it. Like these days, for example, I'm trying very hard to not buy a ton of Simpsons figures from Playmates. If you remember that line, it's like one of the best lines ever.
Yeah.
And if I spot them out in the wild, they're coming home with me. So that's the thing that happens. Beyond that, I'm not really necessarily an autograph hound, but something I've started to do is get a lot more autographed figures of things, the occasional Funko Pop. I'm not a Funko Pop collector. I don't know if this is a hot take or not in your show, but I'm not a fan of Pops for many reasons, but they're really great for autographs. And one of my other big things I like to do, and this is when I can, is I like to hunt down prototypes for action figures.
Okay, cool.
That's
cool.
different.
I'm sure we'll get into all of that. All right, Joe, what do we got, Joe?
So we're going to start off with what caught my eye and something that I knew you would get a kick out of, Rick, because I know how you are after knowing you for the last 2.5 years. That's Xmen.
Nice.
Yeah, he has this incredible mini bust and other figures of Xmen and miscellaneous ones. There's like one or two that I just caught my eye and I grabbed. But you can go into this because I actually never saw these busts before. So if you can give us like a quick rundown as I go through it.
So those are the X-Men animated series busts, and I'm also a collector of Marvel things, occasional DC, but I am a comic book guy at heart, and big X-Men fan, of course. So that right there, what you're looking at is from Gentle Giant / Diamond Select, and they've been doing for the last few years a series of mini busts in the style of the 90s animated show. And so that's Storm. She came out a little while ago. We've had a few others on, and they're really nice. They're really cool because they're like a great little size. They got a good heft to them too. Those are resin, what you're looking at there. So they're not plastic. They're a little more sturdy, much more sturdy, actually.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about like Diamond and Gentle Giant is they tend to put a lot of like transparent plastics or some translucent plastics in there. In the case of Storm, I don't believe hers has that, but you can see she has some sort of like lightning effect coming out of her hand. And you'll also note too that this is across the board with all the characters. You're seeing some like toning, especially around like, of course it's Storm, so under her bust. and some other places on her face and some parts of the hair, on her arm and her cape. You're seeing colors. So they're kind of basically replicating that early cell shading look that you saw in the X-Men animated series.
Yep.
And they came out incredible. Next, we got Gypsy Danger.
Wow.
So that's also a Diamond figure. I do a lot of Diamond reviews because they just make really cool stuff. And big supporter of them, have been since like their Mini Mates days. I think that was my introduction to Diamond Select. And they just got the Pacific Rim license recently. So that's Gypsy Danger. Previously to that, NECA was doing Pacific Rim, and those are just hard to hunt down nowadays.
I have not seen one.
Yeah, it's been a long time since they came out, but this guy's brand spanking new, I believe. So there he is. He's a really, really nice figure.
What's the size of him? How big are they?
He is about 7 inches or so, 7 or 8, I think.
Just perfect size.
The Diamond figures, they're not 112 like Marvel Legends or Star Wars Black. They're actually closer to like 110 scale.
Okay. Yep. And that's not metal or anything like that. That's just Yeah,
those are all it's all plastic. That's just the metallic paints that they use for. They use a lot of metallic paints, which look really, really nice. Helps make the figure look quite sharp.
Yeah.
Detail's good.
Blade. This is another fun one that's also very, very new on the market. This is like I was calling in my review of him, like one of the sleeper figures of the year that people need to know about. Because this is Blade. It's in a comic style, and it's kind of like Diamond's interpretation of Blade. So it's not like what we, not the Wesley Snipes version in the trench coat. There's no trench coat here at all. This is him basically in action, in battle. And the really cool thing about him is the fact that he has just this enormous assortment of accessories. And we're talking 2 heads. I believe he has some different hands. I think he has like 9 weapons on him.
Yep.
Wow.
And what's cool about that is he has like, hands to hold the guns or the swords he has, but like every single weapon that he comes with can actually be loaded onto his person. So he has like a sheath for the sword on his back. He has holsters for his guns. He has a boot knife, and he has a sheath for that on his boot. He's got, I think there's like only one accessory that doesn't have somewhere to go. And really the only place to put it is just in his hand.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad place to put it.
No.
Very nice figure. Highly recommend it.
And I knew Rick would appreciate.
Yeah, can you just go back to the Blade one, Joe?
Yeah,
sorry.
Sure, no problem.
Do you change them out, like the heads and so forth, and when you display them, like you? Yep.
I definitely try to. And for me, I usually just find a head I like and stick with it.
Yeah.
But for the sake of like when I'm doing video reviews, I'm usually popping heads. I'm trying to show as much as I can how these things come in and out, how easy they come in and out, or if they don't come in and out.
Yeah.
So in the case of this video, there was a head swap, I'm pretty sure. And I think I kept the Fang head on for the rest of it because that head is just so cool.
Yeah. No, it looks dope. I love it.
Yeah. And then here's Rick's favorite.
Yeah.
I knew you would like this one, Rick.
Yeah, man. That's awesome.
We're still in like Diamond territory here. And like I said, I do a lot of Diamond stuff on the channel. This is also a relatively new piece. It's one of their much bigger PVC statues. Yep. And the fact that it's PVC means it's a little bit more affordable than, let's say, if you're going to pick up, like a resin piece. But again, this guy's enormous. I don't quite remember the exact size. I think he was close to a foot, maybe a little bit more, and just big all around. So he was on the more expensive side. Typically, these days, a Diamond statue new is like 40 to 60. I think he was in the 100 or 120 range.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Because he's way bigger. He's a lot more plastic, a lot more mass. And this was the Immortal Hulk version. So this is like their interpretation of the Immortal Hulk series, which, if you have any comic fans out there, if you haven't read the Immortal Hulk, you really got to pick it up. It's like one of the best 50-issue runs of the Hulk ever.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I totally co-sign that because I think it was the best one since Red Hulk. When the first Red Hulk. And then it got crazy at the end, but yeah.
What's that down the bottom? Is that like on the base? Is that okay?
So I think I haven't looked at that guy in a while because this piece I don't really display. It's too big.
Yeah,
it's very big. But I think
okay.
I think it was either a snowy base or it might have been like Impact. Because it's one of the things that Diamond will do, especially, is they'll often do like really great bases. They're the kind of things I wish they would just sell separately. But yeah, a lot of times if it's not like a landscape, it'll be like an Impact base.
Yeah.
We'll kind of see in the next piece, in fact. But yeah, there's a lot of times where it's like, if a guy just lands or is doing something in the air, like there's some kind of energy or flow happening in the piece to show like the gravity of the character and what they're doing.
Hence what we got here.
Hence what we got here a little bit. Yeah, this was so for a few years now, Diamond has had the Bruce Lee license, and they've done a lot with it. They've done figs, I think they did some Vinnie Mates, and they've been doing PVC statues and some resin busts. This is one of the PV statues, and this one also just came out. This is the Bruce Lee air statue. So what Diamond's doing with the PVC Bruce pieces is they're all different elements. So they've done water, they've done earth, they've done fire, and now they're doing air right here. And
Oh,
so
wow.
this is him in an outfit that's kind of similar to, I think it's like meant to be like Fist of Fury. And he's kind of
Yeah.
like doing his famous jump kick at the end of the film. I think he's not wearing a shirt at the end of the film. I don't remember, but it's a pretty iconic pose for Bruce.
Right,
And you can see here, so this is not, I wouldn't call it necessarily an impact base here, but it's the idea of the air flowing around him and kind of tying into him. And I go into a whole like super duper artsy spiel about like what I think about the piece and how it all works together. I'll save that for another video, I feel like, but you know, all these elements really tie together to make it a very unified and really great Bruce Lee piece.
Do you have the rest of them, or are you going to get the rest of them so it ties in?
I believe I might have missed one or two actually. It just worked out that way. I think I reviewed Fire because I think Fire was the first one they did, and that was Bruce in the Game of Death outfit.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
yellow.
Yep, the yellow tracksuit.
Yeah.
They're all really nice. I mean, I will say this: like, I remember that piece not being as into because I didn't like the head sculpt. This head sculpt's definitely way better. I found that Bruce Lee has had a very tough head to sculpt for whatever reason. A lot of toy companies have had troubles with his face, even going as far back as like when Art Asylum had the license way back. That was like one of the first articulated Bruce Lee figures. Even those were not that good. And that's Art Asylum. Art Asylum's like an excellent, reputable company with high class sculptors. This one's definitely one of the better ones in my opinion to get outside of like the resin pieces, which cost way more. Again, this is like a $50-$60 piece. So for anybody out there who is like a Bruce Lee fan, my advice is ideally try and find him in person so you can kind of see it and make sure that you like the likeness as well.
Yeah.
Slick. And then
Raven. Wow.
Raven.
Craven's another very new one.
Yeah, the detail on like the pattern for the pants and the lion's mane. I think it's incredible.
I believe this one was sculpted by designed and sculpted. I think it was designed by a guy named Caesar and sculpted by a guy named Alterton. And I interviewed them on my show on my channel about 2 years ago. You know, when the pandemic began, Toy Fair was like one of the last events to happen in New York City in 2020. In 2021, there was no New York Toy Fair. 2022, there was no New York Toy Fair. So in 2021, I was like, there's no actual event this year. There's not going to be any reveals or anything like that in New York. I'm going to do my own virtual Toy Fair. And I did a 4-day YouTube event, basically. You know, I had like 10 videos a day with different toy makers around the world, going from like really big companies to little tiny companies to Kickstarters. And then just also talking to folks in the industry. And two of those folks were Caesar and Alterton. And they've been designing toys and sculptures forever. And they're, you know, I think like they're like the dynamic duo of these sculptures. Like they do such excellent work. They really get like the anatomy, they get the energy, they get the feeling of the characters. And so I had a chat with them on the show and we learned all about like how they do what they do, because it, you know, it really is an art form that I feel like might not be as appreciated by a lot of toy collectors out there. And it's really cool just like getting that inside info on like what they do, how they do it, and why they do it, and why they make the choices they make with these pieces, because they are essentially pieces of art you get to bring home and don't cost you an arm and a leg.
Correct. Yeah.
Incredible.
I do like that. I like his pose.
The pose is really like, like
he's get like,
I
can get a little super nerdy artsy if you want about this, because that's like my thing. I'm an art school kid. I do, you know, that sort of stuff. But like one of the things that's really strong about this piece is really those use of basically the easiest way to put it, I guess, is let's just say straight vertical and the horizontal. Because you'll notice here we have the bamboo pole sticking out. We have Craven's leg that he's leaning on. We have Craven's leg that he's, you know, has knee to the ground. The way his arms are, the way the spear is poking out in that direction. These kind of like elements are what directs your eye into the piece and keeps it involved into the piece. And likewise, you look at like Craven's head and how square that is. Same thing. It's kind of mimicking those bamboo poles. And it's also mimicking the leg that he has that's up in the air a little bit. And
so
you see, it's like it's creating a kind of shape that keeps your eyes in there, keeps it into that space. And likewise with that spear, the spear is kind of that juxtaposition. It's the kind of thing that contrasts those vertical lines. And in doing so, it creates an X pattern, an X shape. And art, like, you know, triangle and an X, those are the strongest pieces. Those are the strongest parts of a piece of art. So that X shape here, if you can look at it, you'll notice it's basically kind of leading you right into his chest from this angle. And it's bringing you right in there. And as it sucks you into that point, into that middle center point, your eye then expands to take in the whole piece.
And it really gets into the lion's mane too, as well.
Exactly, yeah. And that lion's mane too. You know, one of the other things too about art is like your eye will also go to the point of highest contrast. So usually it's like the darkest dark next to the whitest white. And oftentimes the way that Caesar and Alston work, and really this is across the board with any of the stuff that Diamond does, I'd say, they find those like high contrast points and they make it work so that it's a point to, again, kind of like suck your eye into a certain spot and then allow it to travel around the piece and really take it in.
Wow.
Very cool. Very cool.
Incredible. And I thought this was a very interesting piece because I've never seen this before. So
Okay, so this is Elektra as Daredevil. So this has been going on the last few years in the Daredevil comics, where there was a little story where Matt Murdock goes to jail because he always ends up in jail for some reason.
you're a lawyer, you end up in jail.
Yeah, it's the
You're
thing
a
Matt
lawyer,
Murdock
you go
does.
to
He's all about his guilt and going to jail, whatever. So he went to jail, and while he was off in jail doing his hijinks, Elektra was like, "This isn't cool. I got to take over for my Matt." And so it's kind of like a little bit of a character growth arc for her because she takes the mantle as Daredevil, but at the end of the day, she's still Elektra. She's still like this hardcore killer assassin.
Yeah.
So she's kind of learning how to balance like who she is with what Matt Murdock does, and she kind of turns into a different person. And here she's kind of like this, not an anti-hero, but she's coming to terms with like what Matt Murdock does as Daredevil and how that contrasts herself. And so this is her in the outfit. She's kind of jumping over some rooftops, and it's kind of cool marriage of elements of Elektra too, because she is the assassin. We have her size in her hand. We have her face kind of covered. She has the baggy Hakama pants, but she's also jumping around like she's Daredevil. She has the Daredevil logo on her chest. She's got those iconic kind of Hell's Kitchen base there that you're seeing in the bottom.
Yeah.
And it's just a really cool action piece. Again, I think that actually was also a Caesar and alternate piece. Don't quote me on that, but
Okay. All right.
that is one of my favorites also. Like I love the kind of cityscape pieces like that.
We don't have a different angle on that one, Joe. No,
No.
I wouldn't want to say that's cool. Cool.
Yeah, and then this is Venom Deadpool, right?
Venom Pool, yeah. Similar size to the Hulk. I think I actually had the Hulk in that video, and I compared the two together. I don't remember I did. It's been a while since I looked at that stuff, obviously, but another really massive piece and a very cool, bizarre version of Deadpool.
Yeah, it's quite stunning because you got the tongue, and then you have the trademark Deadpool like cuts where it's like the black over the eyes and the white eyes, because the mask is kind of similar between the two of them, but at the same time there's differentiations in color blocking and in the mouthpiece, obviously, because you got all those like terrifying teeth, which I think just stand out tremendously on here.
And what's kind of fun about this piece, as you're zooming into, you might be able to notice it, is like you can see like where his bicep is. He has like some kind of staples, essentially. There's staples all over him, like by his mask, by his eyes, on his legs.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like it's making you think like, okay, what part of this is Venom symbiote? What part of this is costume? It makes you ask some questions. When you really think about it, it's kind of grotesque, isn't it? And it kind of adds another level to the energy of this kind of character.
Absolutely. Yeah. And now I have even more like deep dive.
And the weapons come out, like his swords. Can you put them? No, or that's it.
No, so this is just a PVC piece. So it's solid PVC. None of the PVC pieces that Diamond do have any interchangeable parts or any movable parts. So what you see is pretty much how it is.
Yeah.
And then here is Jubilee. Oh, sorry.
And Professor X. Yeah, so there's some more X-Men characters here.
Cool.
Jubilee was a really good one. You know, on the channel, I also review these with my girlfriend Andrea, and you know, like she's the big hardcore X-Men fan and always has been. And one of the things that she and I struggle with a lot actually are the faces, because usually we think the faces are great, but you can kind of see like sometimes it's the noses that kind of throw things off.
Well, it's hard to do a nose, I think.
It's hard to do a nose in this style with the animated series because they're basically painting in like additional lines to replicate the cartoon look. But you know, in doing so, when you start adding black to like anything, black is a color that flattens things out.
Right.
And so if you use too thick of a line, you're going to then kind of lose that natural, or really the actual sculpted shape of that piece, the actual sculpt of the nose. It kind of starts to fall down and get lost in that black outline. And that's tends to be what happens. I think Jubilee didn't suffer as much, but there's others who did suffer a little bit more. So like from certain angles, it can definitely look a little bit funny.
Like Professor Xavier.
Professor X, I think, had a pretty good sculpt as well. You can kind of see again more of the black outline. That's a cool piece too. He's like, I think, considered one of the more I don't want to say deluxe because he's not. There's no like deluxe pieces in this line, but he's a little bit more expensive because he has like the wheelchair base, which made him a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier. But it's like the perfect iconic Professor X pose, isn't it?
Yeah.
I do like that.
It's very neat. Yeah.
You know, 90s.
I thought this was incredible.
Yeah, that's their Phoenix, which also just came out. Yeah, that's actually a normal Phoenix. Dark Phoenix would be in the red outfit.
Oh, okay.
So they haven't done her yet, but I guarantee you at some point they'll do a variant, just repaint her.
I probably will pick that one up. Yeah, that's sick. I don't even like the translucent back that she has. The Phoenix.
Yeah, so she was actually one of the more expensive ones because of that. She was, I think, double the price of the typical pieces they were doing.
So she was 100.
How much would something like that be, Matt?
I think she was 120.
Oh wow,
you're up there. So you're up there. Okay.
Yeah, because those wings are very heavy. They add a lot of weight. It's a solid piece of resin behind her, multicolor piece of resin. it's very thick and very heavy. So
Yeah.
that definitely adds to the piece. But it looks great the way it is. I mean, especially this pose that she's in. I mean, they do such a great job figuring out the poses. And I can't remember his name. It's like Brad. Oh my god, I can't remember the sculptor's name, but he does an excellent job. He's been doing the entire line since day one. Really great sculptor. Really gets the characters.
Very cool.
Oh, that's incredible. Like, so is it well balanced?
Absolutely. I've never had a balance issue with any of the stuff from Diamond ever.
Oh wow, because I figured with like the two different types of material that it would be kind of like throw it off a little bit. But
no, because they basically kind of weigh the same, and also she's on a base, so that's keeping it very solid. The base helps deal with all of that weight, and even the way she's posed to, it kind of counterbalances that. So it's all pretty solid. The weight's going straight down. There's nothing like jutting out further than her arms reach. Because if that was the case, then she'd probably be falling over. But I mean, honestly, her hair is probably the thing that keeps her centered because she's got a lot of hair. And that's
they got to put a lot of That's a good one. All right, so that's it for the X-Men. Now here we go with another fun one, mainly because I'm a wrestling fan, and I never had these, so I was like, "What is this?" So I said, "All right, let me ask him," because he was kind enough to send these to me, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, I know that guy," and I keep pushing the wrong button. Good thing we don't record. This button. There we go. So this Japanese collection.
Wow.
Of wrestling figures. So who makes these? Is they all like imported or?
These are all imports. So these are just a few. I have a ton more that I have not shown. This is just what's currently on display right now. So you're looking at a few different things here. So the smaller figures, I guess we can call them kind of like gashapon figures. They're not quite. Actually, no, I think those were gashapon figures, and those are basically like if you go to Japan, you put money in a machine, you do it. It's like a mystery toy, comes out in a little bubble. Those are called gashapon machines. And so this is the All Japan wrestlers that are in that. So Series 1 was on the bottom that you saw. I think this is a few from Series 2, maybe I think Series 3 as well in there. But yeah, that right there, it's in front of you is the almost complete Series 1. What I don't have in that shot is Giant Baba. He's the one all the way on the right.
Yeah.
So he had a variant where he was just painted gold.
Oh, okay.
Because Baba's the founder of All Japan. So but yeah, this is basically the 4 pillars of heaven plus Baba, and
you got Inoki, you got
actually over here. So we have got Akiyama, Taue, Misawa, Kobashi, Kawada, and Giant Baba.
Wow.
And then right above that we have there's one version of Keiji Muto. They've done a ton of Muto. You got another Misawa. You got Kenta Kobashi, who's like one of my favorites of all time. Then Jushin Liger. And the belts that are on the ground there are the Triple Crown belts.
Oh, okay.
And that's like for All Japan, that was like that was their belt. That was their big belt because it's a combination of several factions. I guess I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe it in like a short amount of time. But instead of having like one belt, they had 3 belts. That was the Triple Crown Championship. And then we got some more of the All Japan guys there. We have a few different dudes there. So
Antonio Inoki in the center, which is a great place.
2 Inokis actually. Got Inoki in the center, and then we have him also to the right in his wrestling gear.
Oh, and that's like young Inoki when he fought Ali.
Yeah, I think that was actually a 2-pack. That version was released I think twice in black trunks and brown trunks, and there was also a release with him with Karl Gotch, which is a really cool one. So yeah, I've got a mix of these guys. They're not always also just like the wrestlers. They're also I've got some MMA guys here, like as you can see in the front, Kazushi Sakuraba. I've got Funaki, Masakatsu Funaki. So the cool thing about them is they didn't just do pro wrestlers. These companies, they also did MMA fighters. So you'd get figures of like Pride or Pancrase, things like that. Which again, I don't have them on display at the moment, but they are like one of my favorite things to collect, just because they're so different looking.
Right.
And like I like Japanese toys. I don't really have too many of those out to begin with. I also collect like Godzilla stuff, Japanese Godzilla imports, and Sofugi toys. But the cool thing about them is like they're a lot more statuesque than they are figures. Like you can see they have some joints, but they don't really have much. You can't really do what you can do with like let's say an elite figure. You can't really do much figure photography with these guys. These guys are more statue, but that also makes them a little more fun to just kind of like have them in these poses, these iconic looks, and they're just great figures. They're kind of kitschy, but in a really good way. Like they don't have great likenesses. They have terrible articulation, but something about them is just like a combination of old and new, I guess.
Not only that, it's so rare. I've never seen these at any toy store or any collectible buy us. So I think that really stands out. 2 questions before we go. Is that one Gary Albright?
That is Gary Albright. Yes,
I
good
knew
on
that
you.
was Gary Albright. That is incredible. God rest his soul. And behind him is that Vader.
That is one of the versions of Vader. Yeah, Vader.
Oh wow.
Vader is actually a very expensive one nowadays. So these figures can go.
He passed away as well.
Since he passed away, especially. So Vader in the mask without the belts, like I guess first release of Vader, that one's one of the more expensive ones. Really, what you're seeing in this photo here, I don't think anybody here is like super expensive. Like that Vader was he's got a belt on his shoulder that's from a 2-pack with Too Cold Scorpio when they were the GHC tag team champions. But as far as like, rarity, some of these figures can go for pretty big bucks, and Vader is one of them.
Wow. Yeah, I've always liked Vader because I was a big Fatal Fury fan and WCW, and I always thought he had like the coolest, because he's a guy it's bigger than me, but he could do backflips and he could like do all these incredible feats.
Yeah.
And when you meet him, he was a nice guy, and I was like, I was not expecting you to be nice. I remember it was one of those wrestlers like, oh, when I meet him, why'd you do that to Sting, man? And then when I came, it's like, hey, how you doing, Sonny boy? How you doing? And I'm like, oh, you're really nice. And like kind of just broke the veil for me. And like I was young, but yeah, I thought that was an incredible moment. And such a great wrestler. I think it's Mr. White. It's just a closer look at some of the detail that they put on these.
They are very detailed for what they are.
Yeah.
Like the one thing that kind of sucks is because of the glossy paint, you kind of lose some detail. But like, for example, if you look at Keiji Muto, you can see in his forehead, he has like the blading marks.
Yeah.
So you'll get things like that. But because they are very glossy, they kind of tend to lose a little bit of the detail.
Yeah.
But they're really fun. And these are probably some of my favorites actually of all time.
Yeah. I've never seen these before either. So can you give us a little bit about that one?
So these, I'm pulling a memory blank right now, but I believe these are called mini big heads.
Mm-hmm.
And so similarly, they're like kind of like a blind box toy line that you get in Japan. It was a short-lived line. I mean, I say short-lived. It was there for a few years. It was there for quite some time. They did a lot of stuff. And so they're basically just very tiny little figures of all sorts of pro wrestlers and MMA fighters. There's some kickboxers in there too. They did an entire wave of just women Joshi wrestlers also. These are easily like some of my favorite toys of all time. Just because they combine the wrestling, they combine MMA, they combine the kickboxing into toy form, which you just don't get. And they're also just like these fun little caricatures of all these guys. And you can tell who they are immediately. So they just have like so much life to them, iconic poses. And like, who doesn't love a minifigure, honestly? Like, that's one of my favorite toys out there, just the really small little ones. And these figures are just like absurdly detailed. They just get it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right.
You like that?
So now it's begs the question, right, Rick?
I reckon it does. I don't know, we haven't really touched on this, Matt, but obviously you collect quite a bit. So where do you get most of your stuff from? Do you go thrift shopping or do you go online? Where do you go?
It's a very big question for a lot of different types of things I collect. So I don't know if you need to like focus in on one thing or not. But
no,
like,
you go for it.
Yeah, we got time, man.
I mean, I'm always on the hunt for things. So yeah, I'll go thrifting, but thrifting is such an up and down thing. It can yield results or it can be a waste of time. One of my big things is I like to travel around. If I'm doing like film festivals, I also do like filmmaking and stuff like that. So if I travel around for film festivals or if I'm traveling for work or whatever, I will go out of my way to try and find like the nearest comic book store or the nearest toy store, and I'll go hunt wherever that is. I'll do the occasional Comic-Con hunt, but rarely, you'll find anything really good unless it's like a smaller convention, because typically, especially if you go to like a big con, you're going to be paying con prices for these toys, and it's not worth it. It's never worth it because everybody will up their prices. Again, that kind of is like wherever, depending on where you are, the prices will change. But I know for a fact, I'll go to like New York Comic-Con, and a price for a figure is just like disgusting for something that's like common. But then if you're like me, you wait till Sunday at 4 p.m. Suddenly they don't want to take the stuff home. And then I mean that's honestly how I re-kickstarted my Star Trek collection, was because of a Comic-Con one day where it was basically 4 p.m. on a Sunday, and I was like, hey, will you do like 5 of those for $10 or something? He's like, sure, take them. I don't want them.
Oh, wow.
That's a whole other thing we can get into too if we want to talk Trek later. But for the most part, I'll do that. eBay I will occasionally use, especially with a lot of the Japanese stuff. But I'm also in a lot of Facebook groups. I've had really great success with Facebook groups and communities for that. So really a lot of places. And there's some other things I collect that I really can't divulge where I get things from. But
Yep. Well, I tell you what, I'm in what's called the sweet spot of Jersey. Like, so I'm not near Red Bank where Kevin Smith's shop is, but Kevin Smith's shop might be a little bit expensive. But I am near 2 very quietly infamous spots. So if you're ever in Jersey, just hit me up and we'll link up, and I'll take you to those 2 spots. And they have some real killer stuff that I think you probably would get appreciative of.
Well, since you're a Jersey guy, can I drop a hot tip for a really good store?
Yeah,
Yeah,
if it's one of the stores that I go to. Go ahead.
All right, so it's way far out. It might be too far from where you are for a typical day. It's close to where Atlantic City is. It's called Farpoint Toys.
Oh wow!
So of course, if you're a Trekkie, you know what Farpoint is, and that's where
Yeah,
the
I
name comes
know.
from.
Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah. So the owners have the store. They've been there for a while now. It's a great store. It was actually one of the stores featured on. It's a toy store made by the Nacelle company. So they were featured on that because they have a great story, and especially like during COVID, they had like I won't ruin it, but they had a wild thing happen to them that like nearly caused the business to end.
Oh wow!
And they got through it. And it's a really great toy store. It's not just that it's a store; it's very much a museum also. So you'll have stuff there for sale, but then like one of their goals is to get like permanent collections so you can just come and look at like here's every single figure from Mask, here's every single He-Man figure, here's all the Exo Squads, here's Masters Universe, here's Turtles, Transformers, Star Wars. So that's kind of like their thing is you can buy stuff, but there's also things just to kind of look at and appreciate the toys for themselves.
Wow. So they did that. It's funny you mentioned it. There's another place that did that similarly. They used to sell train sets. I think it's called North Ends, and now it's the biggest museum for train car sets. And they've got everything Lionel, everything, North Ends and stuff like that. So that's become a New Jersey attraction as well. So yeah, we got some gold here in Jersey. Everybody makes fun of us. When I told
you have Pandora's Box also out, right?
Pandora's Box, yeah. We also have. I stumbled on this.
It's a bit far for me to go, Joe, but
yeah, a little bit. But hey,
yeah.
man, if you need something, I'll go scoop it up for you. But there's a New York store called I want to say it's Excelsior or something like that, and I've got a lot of cool Star Trek stuff from them. They have like a little bit of everything in order to get more people in because they're in a mall, and like malls over here are just slowly fading away. So
you're gonna have to send me that address later because now I gotta check that out.
Yeah, like I said, you just gotta come through, and then you and I can go toy shopping. I'm just trying to find their card, but I don't seem to find it. But yeah, I got a great deal on the Deep Space Nine Playmates that it's like impossible to find cheaply.
No, really. I feel like the Playmate Star Trek stuff is like some of the dirt cheapest stuff out there.
It was, and then like everybody realized they stopped making all of it, so then it became expensive. So like, I mean, compared to Eagle Moss, yeah, but my Deep Space Nine, when I was originally looking for it, I was looking for the Defiant, and I couldn't find it down to $300.
Okay, yeah, the Defiant will set you back. The vehicles especially will set you back hardcore.
Yeah, and then the Deep Space Nine station was like $200-300, and I got them both for one because they were like, "Yeah, we really want to clear this one out." So I was like, "Oh, sweet." I ended up scoring those.
That's kind of the nice thing about Star Trek toys, and primarily the Playmates toys more than anybody else, is that they overproduce those things so much. So, like, really, you could easily bargain people down for those because nobody wants them.
Yeah,
I mean, I sell my collection. I mean, I want them too. I still have not completed the whole collection, and I'm probably not because there's a lot of figures. Honestly, I just don't want. But they're the kind of things that you can go to like a comic convention and wait till the end of the show because no one's going to buy them, and you can get them for way cheap. And there you go.
Yeah. You did mention something about pops that you collect, a few pops or Funkos. Have you got anything you can show us?
So I don't normally I'm not like a super hardcore pop collector. The main purpose I do with the pops is I guess in the last few years I've kind of become like a bit of an autograph hound. And so what I'll do is I'll use them to go to events and get them signed by people. And that's typically a lot of like pro wrestlers. Typically, it's a lot of pro wrestlers for the most part, but I also like to do cartoon people because I'm a big cartoon fan in general. So I'll go to meet the voiceover actors. Like over here, for example, I have this one here of Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender, signed by Dante Bosco.
So do they sign it on the outside? Is that,
there you go. We're going to make you bigger.
Yeah, so I have this actually in a protective case because I'm that guy.
No, that's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a nice little protective case. And
so put the case over the top. Yeah.
And so I have them sign in paint marker, by the way, which is a tip for anybody out there if you don't know. Whenever you're getting toys signed, don't use Sharpies. Never use a Sharpie.
Why is that?
Rubs off.
It rubs off is one part of it, but also over time, it will basically just be eaten up by the plastic of the toy.
Wow.
Okay, cool. That's right. Plastic, the chemical reaction to the felt of the marker, that ink kind of just gets
and
absorbed.
Just sun will also help it fade away too.
Yeah,
they're not as permanent as you think. Like Sharpies are really meant for paper. So what you want to get is acrylic paint markers, not oil, because oil will not dry. Oil will take years to dry. not years. It'll take a long time. You get acrylic paint markers. They still will probably take like up to 5 minutes to dry, depending on the brand. And they are much more permanent. Really, the only way to get them off is just to scrape it off with like something. Otherwise, that's not leaving anytime soon.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, like they're having the. Are you going to the HooCon or no?
Probably not going to go to Long Island HooCon. Never been actually yet. Hoping one of these days to actually go out there and do it.
Yeah, because Jody is going to be there, and I have her pop figure, so I'm thinking I might go to get that. So now that I know the type of marker to get, because I was like, Sharpie's going to suck. So I was thinking about
although Sharpie is doing some more paint based stuff these days, but I'd still recommend, like, for me, I use Posca, which is a really solid brand. Those last a long time too. That's the other thing too, is it is a paint marker. It will dry out. And if you take good care of it, it'll last a good amount of time. But if you don't use it a lot, you still got to shake it, make it work again. But I recommend Posca. They are a little bit more expensive, but they come in more variety of tip sizes, more colors. You can go buy a multi-pack from like your local art store. You might even be able to find them in like a Michael's, those kinds of places. But support your like local art store, and they'll probably have it for you.
Awesome.
And I also, just since talking Trek a little bit, also I have right here. I got this at Trek Long Island. And,
man,
this is my Saru signed by Doug Jones.
Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome. So Doug
I normally don't have them sign my name on these things. It's not just because I'm going to put them on eBay, but just because I just don't really care about my name on these toys. But for Doug, I was like, I'll do whatever you want. Yes, sign my name. You know my name now.
Oh yeah. Were you on one of the panels? Because I know you were Robin.
I wasn't able to actually make it to the panel that Doug was part of, but I didn't get to see Doug in action. I was hosting the Robin Curtis panel, and then I did my own toy panel a little bit later on the following day.
Oh wow, okay, that's awesome.
Cool. So yeah, I've got a ton of other ones. I don't know how many I have of like voiceover guys, but I got folks from like Dragon Ball, from other animes, from a few other American cartoons, and then again going back to the pro wrestling stuff, I have a few. Looks like I only took one out for this right now, but it's one of the better Funko Pops I got signed. Wow. This is Sergeant Slaughter.
10 Hunt.
So like I also have like I'm staring at it. I have like a Jake the Snake I forgot to bring down, which is really cool. I have all 3 faces of Foley signed by Mick, different characters for each one, different colors for each one.
That's cool.
I have an Iron Sheik also, which is fun meeting him. I got like Bret Hart. I've got Lita. Not Lita. I have at least 1 or 2 Bret Hart's Funko Pop signed. I've got a Trish Stratus signed.
Wow.
I don't remember who else. It's a bunch.
You got to meet Trish?
I didn't meet Trish actually. Hers I did through website. So for several years pre-COVID, especially, I was doing conventions. Like I'd go to, there's one in New York called The Big Event, and it's twice a year here in New York. And it's a big just pro wrestler convention, and they all come in and they sign stuff. And I did really great at a lot of those events. I've also gone to like New York Comic Con, or I've been to other events where I'll meet them there.
Yeah, I met Ric Flair that way. I
think I met Ric Flair at WrestleCon actually.
Yeah, it was one of those. Yeah.
WrestleCon's like one of the best events if you're like an autograph collector. You absolutely got to go travel to one of those. But for the most part, I'll do them at conventions or things like that. Or I have by me in Queens, there's actually a pro wrestling toy store. It's like really the first one in the country. Called the Ultimate Wrestling Comic Toy Universe, whatever it is. And so he does signings like every weekend. And so I've been there for various things there. But to be honest, post-COVID especially, and even before then, I was like, waiting in line kind of sucks. So, and it's been fun meeting the wrestlers, but it also comes to a point where I'm like, do I really want to stand in line for like 2 hours? And the answer is no. There's not much else to that. No, I don't. I don't want to stand in line for 2 hours. I mean, it's like, it's not just that you're staying in line for 2 hours. You're staying in line for 2 hours, usually surrounded by other wrestling marks and fans, and wrestling fans can be a little abrasive at times.
You're in it, man. That's up.
It's like, as much as I like meeting a lot of these folks in person, also sometimes it's just easier not to. So I have a really extensive AEW figure collection signed also, and I've met none of them in person yet. I mean, I've met a few in person because I've interviewed them at events. I think the only one I actually met in person to get a figure signed was MJF.
Oh wow,
and that was fun because I got to interview him at Toy Fair 2020. Right before the world went crazy. He was at Toy Fair 2020, and I got to interview him, and that was just like amazing because he's so fun to talk to. He's such a horrible heel. It's amazing to chat with him.
Yeah.
And even with getting the toy signed, he like signed it while insulting me still, and then just like flung it across the convention center.
Oh wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. So I'm actually friends with Santana and Ortiz.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because I used to be a financial backer for an independent wrestling company, 2 of them. I do a lot. I started out as the cameraman, and then I got a decent job, and they were like, "Can we borrow money?" And I was like, "Yeah." So, one of them is now called Catalyst Wrestling, and a lot of these guys, Sonny Kiss, the guy, the Scissor Me Daddy, you know, those guys,
Or Anthony Bowens.
Anthony Bowens, he came from there. A lot of these guys.
Yeah, Bowens is a Jersey guy.
Yeah, Bowens is a Jersey guy. Sonny Kiss is too, Jersey City. So I've known these guys before the AEW started, and I remember like the last show that they were at, the wrestling that we did, the Catalyst Wrestling. I was presenting them. I bought them a brand new belt, and I was like, "All right, I'm presenting the new belt to the champion as the financial guy." And they were, most people came out like, "Oh yeah, here's Joe Dove," and they're like, "Who? What?" And then he has the new belt. "Oh yay, Joe Dove, Joe Dove." It's like, "Oh, finally, people are chanting for me." This is long overdue. But you know, I remember wishing Sonny Kiss well and saying, you know, congratulations on AEW. So, but it's a lot of fun when you meet wrestlers because each and every one of them has some type of personality that's just unbelievable.
Yeah, like some are definitely better than others for sure. I mean, like, you know, I'd say like some of the best are easily Bret Hart. Bret Hart's like number one. I've never missed an opportunity to get a Bret Hart thing signed. Like, because he like really spends time with everybody. Like, he makes you feel special. The first time I met him was in 2016. Then I met him again, I think 2 years later, like at the WrestleCon that was in New York. And mind you, that was like the same day. I think that night he got tackled at the Hall of Fame ceremony.
Oh wow!
But yeah, like, I can tell you, like, Bret was exhausted that day because he was in that autograph room for like 8 hours straight, if not more. And like such a trooper. He had an enormous line. He was actually right next to Shawn Michaels.
Oh, that's
which is hilarious itself. But yeah,
they hate each other, so that's cool.
And it's like they were signing at like certain times specific to them. But you know, Shawn had a really huge line also, and Bret had a huge line. But it's like Shawn was done with his line in like 30 minutes. Bret was like 2 hours because he was talking to everybody. And he was like really trying to connect with everybody and talk to everybody in a way that, like, you know, a lot of other people wouldn't do, especially at that level of stardom. But he like wanted everybody to feel really special. And he was so exhausted because, like I said, I met him before. I know how he is. He's like full of energy. He was just like, he was so tired. You could tell he was tired, but he was still plowing through. He still had more folks on his line. He wasn't going to stop. He was going to make sure everybody that was there to see him got to see him.
Oh, that's awesome.
So those cons, when you go get those signed, is it you pay for your entry and then you have to get in line to get signed, or is it another cost involved? Or
if it's Comic-Con, yeah, you're paying to get into the con, then you're paying to meet the talent, and the price will vary wrestler to wrestler. If you're going to like a signing at a store, then you're not usually paying an entrance fee.
Yeah. Right. Usually they hope you buy something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know if you guys want to get into that too. I can also show off some of the wrestling figures I got here with me in person.
Yeah. We'll give you the spotlight, buddy.
Yay, spotlight. All right. Hey, I didn't grab a few. I know I sent you guys the links. I don't know if you have any footage of those you want to pop on screen too. Here, I'll pop this one out of the case to make it easier.
Let's get it out of the case, Joe.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. Oh, wow. Rob Van Dam. Was he high when you got?
He's always high. I mean, come on.
He's always high. Yeah.
When is he not? Yeah, I have it's actually on my YouTube channel. You guys can watch it. There's video from like 2018, I guess I did it in, which is like me going through my entire, at the time, wrestling autograph figure collection. And it's like a 2-part video. I don't remember how many there were. Since then, that collection has continued to grow a little obscenely, but yeah, it's still growing. It's something I've scaled back on a little bit because I've kind of gotten, I think, most of the guys I want to meet at this point. But there are some who I still always, meet, like this guy over here.
Sting.
Wow.
I was at the AEW event where Sting jumped from the rafters, and if you watch that event, you'll actually see me go, "Hey, it's me!" So that's incredible. That's one of the people I always wanted to meet, and then he just literally walked out into the audience towards me, and I was like, "Wow, he's coming close." And then the security guards, "Hey, buddy, could you move out of the way?" He's like, "Oh, sure." And then Sting looked at me and goes, "Thanks, man." And I was like, "Oh my God, Sting!" So that was a fun moment. Wow. I do have that video, but go ahead.
Okay.
You
yes. I can just add on to that. Yeah. So I'm not going to show off like every single thing from that because it's a lot of stuff, and this show is only going to be so long. But there is a video about it. I'm thinking about at some point updating it because I've got a lot more these days. I've got a few Japanese ones also that got signed.
I've got to show some of these.
Oh, there we go.
I loved Jim Duggan as a kid.
Jim Duggans.
They're action figures.
Yeah.
That was your very first one, I believe, wasn't it?
I think it was, yeah.
All right, cool. You've had a lot of wrestling toys. Yeah, so this is my video with at various conventions and events I went to. I was talking to the wrestlers while getting my toy signed and asking them what's their favorite figure of themselves.
I'm partial to all of them because not many people get one. So, and that's an honest answer. You know, very fortunate to have one.
Yeah, and Ron was one of the few people who did say all of his figures, but for the most part, everybody actually had a favorite. And wanted to ask you, you've had so many wrestling toys of yourself throughout the years. What is your favorite toy of yourself?
This is why I wanted to show you this. I love this video. It's like
And a lot of toys. The dude loves Snuggle Buddy.
Really, dude loves Snuggle Buddy. That's your favorite.
Yeah, I think so.
We're here now with Jimmy Hart, who's had action figures of himself over the decades. So many. Jimmy, what's your favorite figure of yourself?
My favorite figure of myself is all of them. I like the one with me and the Hart Foundation. I like the one with me and the Nasty Boys. I like the one with me and Hulk and Brutus. I like the one with me and Hulky Coke Man and Greg the Hammer Valentine, Rhythm and Blues. I like my singles with WCW and the ones with WWE. I like them all.
He knows his stuff. Mr. Rikishi, sir.
Oh, wow.
You've had many toys of yourself throughout the years. What is your favorite toy of yourself?
It's obviously this one here with the Elite here. I like this one here because it has the belt. This is one of my first outfits that I wore on Monday Night Raw. So I want to personally
everybody
say
actually
thank
had
you.
legit answers that were really, for the most part, thought out, and they had reasons why they liked them so much.
Thank you, success.
I think one of the cool things also doing this video, there's the man himself.
Oh,
I just
Brett.
want to ask, of all the wrestling toys you've had of yourself, which one is your favorite? Simpsons' favorite toy?
This one.
Hey, yo, here with Scott Hall, who's had so many toys
Scott
of himself.
Hall.
What is your favorite action figure of yourself?
My personal favorite is the Hasbro's, and I was blessed enough to have several figures come out that were so in demand. But the one that sticks in my mind the most is early when we jumped to WCW, and they had a doll that vibrated.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Those terrible things.
Oh, serious.
I know that one.
So, I don't know. I guess it was for a different fan base.
How you doing? My name is Tony.
That's a different episode altogether.
2006
One of the cool things too about this is like seeing the
Hall of
signatures
Famer.
of all over the years too, because like a lot of the older guys like Tatanka and Bret Hart, Sergeant
Yes,
Slaughter, they all
sir.
have like beautiful signatures, and then you get to like more of the modern guys, and their
Mhm.
signatures just are the worst.
Oh, wow.
Like I'm gonna, if you wanna, I'll show you this one too right here. This is I got Big E signed at Comic-Con just recently.
Oh,
That's
nice.
it. It's a B and an E.
A B and an E, yeah.
B and an E. I met
Yeah.
Xavier
Okay.
Woods. You know what his was?
XW?
XW. That's it. John Moxley, similar. All he writes is Mox. And to be honest, Moxley these days is an improvement over his Dean Ambrose days, because when he was Dean Ambrose, he wrote a D and an A. That was his signature.
Yeah.
So a lot of younger guys, like they don't have as cool a signature, to be quite honest. But or Matt Cardona. I don't know what he's doing nowadays as Matt Cardona, but when he was Zack Ryder, it was just a Z and an R.
Wow.
And I know it's because a lot of these guys have to sign so many again and again. But like, again, I'm like looking up at, I have like Jake the Snake. I've got one of my Foleys. I actually have a Claudio Castagnoli also and a Bray Wyatt. Like those guys actually try. And that's kind of what matters is like seeing who really cares about the fans, have to give them a really special signature to look at versus guys that are just doing like a single letter or two letters. And there's like nothing really to them. Like they really, the signature is an important part. It tells you who they are. It tells you a lot about who their personality is. And if you're just writing a B and an E, it just kind of says to me like, let's get this out of the way. And it's not that they're bad people, because they're all really nice and they're very fan friendly. But it also is just like, we just waited 2 hours in line for you. Give me a few more letters, maybe. That'd be cool.
I am paying per letter, friend. So
Yeah,
give me
seriously.
more. Oh, man. All right. So we got one more question here, and that it's the why.
Cool. So you collect all sorts, Matt. So how'd you get started, and why did you start collecting, I guess?
I feel like that's a question my therapist should be asking me.
Yes.
I mean, that's again another like really big, broad question to think about. And
Is it nostalgia for you, or because a lot of people collect for nostalgia reasons?
I'm sure nostalgia is a part of it for sure. Because there's always nostalgic things I like to collect, but I'm not really a completionist. That's like, I think an important thing to recognize with a lot of collectors is that a lot of folks are completionists. They want to get every single thing out there. I've never been like that. So even if there's like nostalgia in me, like for example, if we want to talk Star Trek stuff, I don't own every single Star Trek thing ever made. I'm pretty picky. Same thing with Ghostbusters. I'm a giant Ghostbusters fan. I don't own every single figure of every single variation or whatever. Like there's some toys I just frankly didn't like at all. So while nostalgia plays into it, a lot of it honestly for me is the actual artistry in the toys. If I don't like how it looks, if I don't like how it feels, if I don't like those sensations, I don't want it. So that's probably a big part of it is honestly, like I really am a collector for the art of the figures too, as much as I am just nostalgia, or maybe I just want to like support something like, you know, the autograph thing. I still can't figure out why I like these things so much, but they're just fun to meet the wrestlers and have these on display. But like a lot of the figures I have, oftentimes just because I like how they look, and it means nothing else beyond that. I think there's really cool pieces of art that again, you're spending like $25 and now it's on your shelf, and it's pretty darn cool to have that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You keep all the boxes?
Depends on what it is. I'm not really a mint on card collector either. Nowadays, there are more that I'm keeping in package because I just think that they're kind of cool. If I get something, for the most part, it's not because of value. It's really never been value. It's just because I like how it looks. Like behind me, I just put some random stuff out tonight just to have something hiding the mess behind there. But like, you know, the things I keep in package are things that I want to look at in package. So like, you know, that's an Ecto 1 back there. That's the re-release, not the real one. I do have a real one in box.
Oh, excuse
on display.
me.
It's a lot
That's a holy grail
too. I mean, yeah, again, that's what I mean. Like, I unfortunately I don't have a ton of my stuff on display at the moment. But I do have an original Ecto 1 in the box. I don't have a proton pack in box, but what I do have is the slime blower in box.
Oh wow!
Which a lot of folks don't even remember that it came out with, because that was like towards the end of the real Ghostbusters line.
Yeah,
but they did a slime blower. I got that. I was probably still in high school, so that was not a lot of money back then. I think it was like $30-$40, and it's a heck of a lot more nowadays. But yeah, for the most part, I'm collecting things because I like them, because they're beautiful, because they speak to me as piece of art. That's why I'm big into like a lot of those statues. But even then, like, I want a good figure that is a piece of art. That's something more than just something that's posable and playable. Although that is a big part of it for me too. I think that might be the nostalgia factor as well, is because, you know, I grew up playing with these toys, and that's kind of how I learned how to tell stories. You know, it's what's one thing, you know, everybody will say it's the thing that sparks your imagination. But for me, it was also the roots of storytelling, and that probably goes into pro wrestling too a little bit. How to tell a story from point A to point B, and then maybe to point C, wherever it's going to go next. So those factors, as well as just, again, the pure beauty of what these people do when they make these products. And I don't know if, Joe, if you want me to go into some of the other stuff I brought for show and tell today, but I can talk about a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah,
give you the con, as we say in Star Trek.
Oh, you freaking Trekkies over here.
Yes.
Oh, you Trekkies.
So, I'm going to preface this with, I've never shown this on camera before anywhere. So this is a world premiere for Off the Shelf.
There you go.
Exclusive.
Yes.
We're going places.
So, and I'm gonna also add to that, at some point on either Nerd News Today or on Trek Untold, probably gonna be on Nerd News Today, I'm gonna be doing a video all about these, and it's gonna be several videos because there's a lot of them. But I also like to collect prototypes of toys.
Right.
And this is the whole like black market of toy buying here, kind of, sort of. But so I have all sorts of things, from test shots to unproduced things, hard copies. These are all like technical terms that I can get into if you want to know. But like basically, these are all pre-production pieces. My very first one ever was actually a pro wrestling toy.
Oh wow.
And I won it in a contest again years ago, so in like mid 2000s, because it was a TNA Toy Biz figure. And it was the very first TNA Toy Biz AJ Styles, and this was one of the hand painted resin, I guess hard copies would have been at that point.
Oh wow.
So that's what kind of got me started. And since then, I've been buying over the years. If I find them, a lot of times they come from Asia because they're coming straight from the factories, which they shouldn't be, because most of these things are actually meant to be destroyed.
Right.
And that's, again, a whole other video, I feel like, because we can go into the whole controversy of these production toys. But what I have here with me today, that's covering my face now, this is one of my bins of some of the Star Trek prototypes that I have.
Oh, I can't wait to see these.
So I do have a few other, I have several bins like this that are various things. I was hoping today to have something to actually unbox for you guys. I just ordered a piece that was supposed to come today from the UK, and it was going to be a Klingon dagger, the Playmates toy, the Klingon dagger, pre-production test shot, unpainted, non-production colors also.
Oh,
it's like white and green Klingon dagger.
Oh my god!
And fully functional. This was a functional test shot, meaning
so it went, it like opened up and everything. Oh,
and it has the sounds on it too.
Oh, that would
because it's a test shot. So, and at this stage, we're basically at near production because a test shot is they're testing the mold to see how it produces and make sure it works.
Yeah.
And this is one that actually has like working electronics in it as well, which makes it, in my opinion, a lot more rare. The fact that it still works and functions.
Yeah.
So let me start over here. Actually, I'll do this. This is another one here. This is a more recent Star Trek figure. This is from Art Asylum.
Oh, they're known for making great products.
Art Asylum is probably my favorite Star Trek toy line of all time. And this is a test shot of Governor Worf. I believe this is Governor. No, this might be Klingon Worf, actually. It's Klingon outfit.
Yeah.
This is him. This is a test shot made in black plastic.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And see, actually, I expect to do this. That's probably the better thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, that's
there you go.
awesome. Yeah.
Wow. There's detail on it.
Yeah, that's really.
So that's the thing too. Is like
detailed.
when you get these guys and you're seeing them unpainted, you can really see the detail a lot closer now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
you can see like all the texture. I know it's a little bit hard on like a web camera to see it all, but
No,
you
but
see more of the
great.
texture, more of the sculpting detail, things that kind of get lost when you start adding paint, because paint is it is a physical layer, and that physical layer will seep into the spaces on like his outfit. Or again, it's kind of hard to see maybe from even with sliding here.
See, you have the little the spine protector or the
spine protector, but even it's definitely not picking up. There's like lots of lines going across his back that are part of the outfit, and those are things that will get filled in with paint.
Right.
Especially if it's thicker paint. So that's kind of stuff that gets lost. So all right, let's see what I'm gonna pull out here. I think I'm just gonna show one or two today, just because I have some real rare beauties I'm saving for my channel. But
we appreciate it. We really appreciate. Wow.
Oh, who we got here?
So this is a hard copy of Beverly Crusher.
Oh, the Dr. Crusher.
And so a hard copy will be what the sculptors are making in-house to kind of like test how they're going to like get this thing made, and also to make copies for themselves or for various reasons. Because the next step from here would be like painting the hard copies once they lock in sculpts. And again, they can make many hard copies of different variations of the toys. I do have in this case a few versions of figures that were not what was released.
Wow.
So I think Dr. Crusher, this is actually pretty close to final. And you'll also notice she has like some little weird metal bits sticking out of her. You can see her exposed joints. Those are pins. And that's basically holding the toy together as pins, and they're metal pins.
Right. Yeah, because I have that series. I have Galron in that series. And just like his arm, I think it was his wrist and his arm and his shoulder moved.
Yeah. That was the first wave, because I think he wasn't actually Galron. I don't think that way. I think he might have been Klingon. I don't remember what he was called that first wave. But you've talked about that one because they were all in like the weird battle poses. Right. Yeah. And so on my Trek Untold channel, I've actually interviewed some of the sculptors who worked on those toys. I've spoken to Scott Hensey and Steve Varner, and they were responsible for those, as well as like really all of the Playmates toys from the 80s and 90s and early 2000s.
Wow, man!
Like they did Ninja Turtles, they did the Star Trek, they did Monster Force, they did tons of stuff. And this is one of theirs. I don't know exactly who sculpted this one per se, but yeah, this is one of theirs. And it's trying to see if I can get this in frame here, but the detail is just so much better on these because there's no paint there. It's just straight out.
It's just right. Yeah.
One of the secrets about these toys, a lot of pre-production figures are sculpted as 2-ups or sometimes 3 or 4-ups, meaning they're done 2 or 3 or 4 times the size of how the toy is going to be released. Oh. And that's the thing that sculptors will do, because it's easier to sculpt bigger and then decrease it when it's being produced.
Wow.
But with Playmate Star Trek, for the most part, with the exception of a few lines, they worked at real scale. So it would have been sculpted in wax first, and then probably clay, and then eventually made copies with resin. But they were pretty much close to production size. The one thing that is different about these is these are slightly bigger than what you would have gotten in stores. And that's just because of the production process. What they did in the factories overseas is they did get shrunk a tiny little bit. So they're slightly bigger. That's the one real difference you'd see physically with them.
Wow. Are they hard to get?
Yes.
Yeah, dark web, man.
You do not find these on eebay, no sir.
No, this is dark web stuff, man. He used real Bitcoin for that.
Crypto. Yeah, I think let's see. I don't know if there's much else. Honestly, I would love to show more, but I gotta kind of save some of these things for me.
Oh yeah.
So I feel bad bringing them, like teasing you guys with them, because they're definitely some in here.
That Wharf was incredible, man.
I also have a few hand painted ones. Also, those are the really cool ones. I mean, I love the hand painted ones because it's like you see all the detail in those as well. And those are called paint masters. So it's what they're basically, once they go to final production, that's what they'll use to get to match their Pantones and make the actual figures colorful and pretty. This is not a toy. It's actually, I don't know. You might actually be interested in seeing this, Joe. These are call sheets. Do you know what call sheets are?
Yeah, I know what call sheets are. That's incredible.
Sorry. So you were working for wrestling stuff, so you know what call sheets are. For folks who don't know, call sheets are what? Let's actually, can I show this off safely? Okay. I think there's phone numbers on, so I gotta be careful. So what call sheets are in the TV or film industry is these are basically what you are handed out every day, and it lets you know where you're filming, who's filming with you, who's on staff, who's on production, numbers, how to get contact with people. This is a copy of a call sheet for Voyager. Or actually, no, this is Enterprise. It says Enterprise. I have a Voyager one somewhere else, but I said Voyager only because it actually has I think Roxanne Dawson was directing on this one, and she's listed on the back.
Wow.
So, yeah,
she was married to Casey Biggs at one point, I believe.
I think at that point she might have been married to Casey still.
Yeah.
So I do a few of those. I also have a signed script from a DS9 episode.
Oh man, was it Pale Moonlight? Or
I have Who Mourns for Morn.
Oh, Who Mourns for Morn? That's a fun episode. Oh my god.
I'm a big Klingon. I'm a big Ferengi fan. So yeah, I love those episodes.
Yeah.
So I have this is literally just the one for the most part, just the Playmates toys. I have 2 or 3 other bins that have more of the Art Asylum guys. Wow. I have a few packaging ones also that are basically how they did the packaging before they get made.
Yeah.
I also have. Okay, yeah. I'll say it. Again, I'm like to tell you how much I want to give away, but since I'm not showing them, I could say them as a preview. I have a lot of silicone molds that they made also, which are very, very rare. Also, those don't tend to last very long. No. But I have a few of the silicone molds for those hard copies. So for me, it's very much about getting that whole pre-production process and enjoying the art behind the toys.
That's cool,
and that's how you do it with things like this. You get to really see a behind-the-scenes peek.
Yeah, this is incredible. This is the most informative we've ever had on the show. Let's not got into details. I think we've had the biggest collector, and then we have the most in-depth collector. So
I mean, it's one of my dreams. I'd love to find a way to make toys at some point myself. I'd love to be deeper into the industry. For me, I always feel like I am an outsider looking in, and these days more people are making wrestling toys, especially. It's kind of easier than ever to go into business for yourself and do small runs of vinyl toys or statues or whatever you want to do. So it's something I've toyed with. But I haven't followed through this yet.
You want to make your own toys? That's something.
I'd like to do something. I'm thinking maybe minifigures just to get started. Whether I sculpt them myself or do some other kind of things. I've had some ideas. I did actually during the early days of the pandemic. I did start playing with some resin myself and trying to understand silicone molds and the process behind it, and how extensive it would be to make those things because plastic in general has gone up a lot since the pandemic. And that's why toy action figures have gone up in price, or even just plastic containers, things like this have gone double in price since 2020. So it's unfortunate I chose then to start playing around with those ideas, but it's been fun to do that.
As long as you don't make a Boba Fett that has a firing rocket that comes out of it, so kids can choke on it, you'll be fine.
But if you want to talk Star Wars, and since we got a wrestling fan in the house also, there's a really cool toy maker named Healy Made. I don't know if you heard of him, but what he does, he takes old retro Kenner Star Wars figures. And do you remember some of those Japanese wrestling toys I showed you?
Yeah.
He took some of those All Japan ones, cut the heads off, and put the Kenner heads on, made copies of those, paint them in Star Wars colors, and that's what he's selling. So it's pro wrestling Star Wars characters. They are so cool.
That is awesome.
I think he might not be doing that anymore. He might have finished that whole concept, but he did a lot. I think he did a few of those that were really, really great. I regret not buying any because they were expensive. But they were so worth it. Those are the kinds of things I'm talking about where it's this is a piece of art someone put time and effort into. And they're just such cool ideas. So I really like supporting some of those folks who do that because they are artists. That's what they are. So
absolutely.
That's dope. I love it. I absolutely love it, man. You've got. We're gonna have to get you back on the show.
Yeah.
We're gonna have more to show.
No, that's why we do part 1 and part 2 in the future. We just bring you back on it, and we get the next thing.
Part 2 of my storage unit.
Yeah. You get in there first and take some photos, and then we'll do this again.
I know. I'm realizing now. I totally forgot to talk about some other lines I love, like Mythic Legions. I'd love to go talk about those guys one of these days. There's a lot more. I mean, like I said, I'm pretty diverse in my collections. I do my best to streamline it, but I mean, Joe, you've seen the channel. I don't know how far back you went, but
I went pretty far back.
And the channel doesn't really even cover everything I collect. A lot of stuff I do collect just for me. I don't make videos about. I just want it for me. I don't want to turn it into a chore. And that's kind of like a YouTube thing in general. If you're a YouTuber, and you guys I'm sure know it too from what you're doing, is you don't want this to turn into a chore. Where you want it to always have some level of entertainment for yourself. So there's some things you got to keep for yourselves.
Yeah.
Is there a particular one that you enjoy? What's your holy grail that you want to get, and what's your favorite piece that you have?
Damn, that's tough. I mean, I always go back to that AJ Styles figure because that's the very first prototype I ever got, and I won that in a contest. And
Okay.
you know, so that was like the coolest thing because it just happened to be that way. That was my first time seeing it. I was like, wow, this is gorgeous. I've never seen anything like this before. So that's definitely up there to me because it's just because of what it is and what it means for my collection. As far as Grail, I'm like looking around. I'm like, anything here? Anybody in the back? Jeez.
Is there something that you want to get that you really want to get but you can't get hold of?
I try not to think that way because then it just sucks you into the hunt. And like that's the one thing I'll say is I've done this long enough where I kind of know to like not do that, not to be that obsessive about things, not to be the Captain Ahab and try and search for that Moby Dick. Are there things I want? Yeah, but there's probably things I want that I don't even know that I want yet. I mean, just recently, I for example, like I backed the Mattel Creations crowdsourcing thing for the WCW Arena. Like I was one of the first backers for that thing, and it didn't get funded, so it didn't get made. So I got all that money back to play with, and I was like, well, you know what? Since HasLab couldn't make that Engine of Vengeance a year ago for Ghost Rider with their Marvel Legends line, I'm going to go ahead and buy the Ramen Racer from Ramen Toys, which is like half the price. And it's like, that's the thing I didn't really even know I wanted, but I saw it and I was like, I was going to spend this much on this thing. Let me take half of that, put half of it away and save for myself and spend that other remaining half on this really cool 1/12 scale Ghost Rider car.
No, that's cool.
So, I mean, I'm trying to think like off the top of my head if there's anything I really want. I mean, there's probably things I do want that I'm keeping an eye on. There's definitely some Star Trek protos out there that are like Grails or some wrestling figures that are like Grails, but you know, there's always going to be something new out there. You never know what you're going to find, especially if you're hunting in the wild. You know, like I said, I'll go to a thrift store and I'll find something I didn't know I wanted, and now I have to have it.
Yeah,
you gotta have it.
And if the price is right, then I will do it. I mean, for example, X06. I mean, I'm trying hard not to buy all their Star Trek figures, but
they're so good. They're so good. That Captain Sisko one was like sick, and then they're doing the Picard line.
Yes, I don't know if you had the any photos of the Cisco up here at the show today, but like I got the Cisco reviewed it on my channel. The Quark is coming in, and so for me also, since I'm a guy who like wants to get a lot of different things, I do have to kind of limit myself. And one of the ways to do that is like, okay, X06 is making these amazing figures. I want them all, but I can't get them all because they're each like $200 and up. Yeah. So let me just like for now, stick to just DS9 and stay in that realm and not start buying the Voyager and not start buying Enterprise or anybody else for as long as I can. Let me just like stick to my guns and try and keep things a little bit more focused, or else I will just go willy-nilly and I'll be living in a box by the end of the year.
Yeah.
I'll be living in that Ecto 1 box.
Yeah, the Ecto Ghostbusters. Come over, Slimer. I need some space.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, I think that's about it, Joe. I think is there anything you want to ask Matt before we wrap this up, mate? Is there?
So you didn't get into starships? No starships that you grabbed as a Star Trek fan?
I have a few hero collector things, for Eagle Mustangs. For a brief time, I was doing some things with them. In fact, I did for the last toy fair that they were at. I actually was the guy filming all their stuff for their YouTube channel.
Oh wow,
which was a lot of fun. So I do have some hero collector things. I do have a few starships. Let's see, what do I have? Again, not on display, of course, because of course I wouldn't bring them to this interview all about toys. I do have a few of the Diamond Select ships that they were doing a few years ago.
Oh wow, I have the Enterprise D. No, I have the Ghetto Prize. I don't know. Did you ever see that video? I'll send it to you. I have my Starship Ghetto Prize, which is the Enterprise A original, and then I have the Playmates Enterprise, and then I have my Eagle Moss collection over here, which I have like the Stargazer, the E, DS9, and the C. So,
C, I think the C is one of my favorite Enterprises.
Yeah, and then I have the original because we did an interview with one of the Shuttlepod Show guys.
Nice. I have. Let's see. I mean, I have a few hero collectors scattered around the space. I'll tell you what. One of the things I want to get. It's not a Grail piece, but it's one of the things I want to get. Is Playmobil did an Enterprise.
Oh wow!
So, are you guys familiar with Playmobil?
Yeah.
So, I think they are again
original
one of those.
Or A?
Sorry.
Was it the original or the A?
They did the original, and they also did a Klingon Bird of Prey that just showed off earlier. It started this year, I guess, is when they showed that. Or maybe it might have been last year, but they did a Klingon Bird of Prey from Star Trek 3.
Oh,
which is a really cool set. These are expensive. I think the Enterprise was like $400 or $500.
Whoa.
I think it's starting
Yeah.
to go down a little bit. It's not going to go too far past 250 most likely, because at that point it's
that's
like
what I saw
cost
it
of
at.
production.
Yeah.
It's an enormous, great piece because it's the original Enterprise. It has like a removable spot for your engineering section. You've got the bridge as a removable spot as well. It has the entire crew. It's got accessories. It's got
Wow.
tribbles. It's got working lights and sounds. And it's friggin' enormous. I think it's like close to 3 feet long.
Whoa. Okay.
That's the selling point, is that it's enormous. And not only that, they've engineered it. It's like if you want to hang it from the ceiling, there's a way to do it. That's not that hard. If you want to just have it on its stand and balance on a stand, they've built that as well.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's a really great piece. That's something I would love to get. It's very expensive, but you know, if I'm going to go in my soapbox for a second here, you know, the reason I'm talking about Playmobil also is because they do a lot of really cool stuff, not just Star Trek, but they've done Ghostbusters, they've done Scooby-Doo, they've done a lot of iconic 80s stuff. Actually, they've done Scooby-Doo. They did Knight Rider recently. They did A-Team last year. They've done some James Bond, and Playmobil like specializes in cars.
Yeah.
So when they do their cars, they're really accurate. I mean, their figures are kind of like silly little toys, but the figures are still a ton of fun. But it's the accuracy and the detail in those cars that like really make them stand out, and also the fact that they are just stupidly affordable. Like when you hear the price on these toys, you're just gonna be like, how are they doing that at that price? Like even the Enterprise that they're selling it for that price, it's like it probably should go for more.
Wow.
But it's not.
Please don't watch it then.
Yeah, no, like I think you could still get the Playmobil Ecto 1A for like normal price, probably like 50 or 60, maybe even cheaper, I'm pretty sure.
Wow, that's
that's
really
like
good.
And that's the Ecto 1A with, I believe it has all 4 Ghostbusters and maybe someone else in there too. I don't remember.
The Slimers or Janine or something.
I think Slimer was actually in his own pack with someone, but I'm trying to remember how they did it, because they did release other figures in different ways. But I think like with the Ecto ones, you did get your core figures. With Knight Rider, you got like Michael Knight and 2 other characters. With the A-Team van, you got all 4 members of the A-Team, and that was like, again, I think it was like $50-$60, whatever it was. Like they're really great, highly underrated. And if you're someone who like is big on nostalgia and collectibles that won't kill the bank account, then Playmobil is absolutely something to look into.
Yeah, awesome.
You're
right.
No, we love it. And this is what it's all about. We want people to share what their experiences, and it's all about, you know, learning new things as well. Like I learned a ton of new stuff today, which was awesome, and that's what I just loved it. So yeah, we really appreciate it. Anything else, Joe? You want to?
No, that's it. We're gonna take this really quick opportunity to get Star Trek-y and say we are relaunching our Agony booth, which we do periodically, and I want to extend a warm invitation to you to be on a show where we look back fondly at the harder to watch Star Trek episodes in Agony, called the Agony Booth. It's a lot of fun, and I think you would enjoy it, and I can't wait to have you on there with the guys in the Captain's Quadrant.
I'll beam me up.
I'll beam you right in.
I am excited to watch some terrible Star Trek, which is the best Star Trek.
Yeah.
And Matt, is there anything you want to share? Go let everyone know where they can catch you, where they can find you.
Sure. So if you want to see more of my toy and comic ventures, you can check out youtube.com/nerdnewstoday. And that's got, you know, a lot of stuff we talked about today. And also if you want to see more about those prototypes, I'm pretty sure eventually that's where those videos are going to live. Starting hopefully soon, I'll be doing a whole bunch more videos about comic book history as well. So if you like toy reviews, if you like history, learning more about art and toys and comics, check out Nerd News Today on YouTube. And if you're a Trekkie like Joe, check out my other podcast, which is Trek Untold. And that's youtube.com/@TrekUntold. If you want to watch the video version, but it's also available on all major audio platforms. So whether you've got Apple Podcast, if you got Google Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the things out there that you can listen to, I'm on. I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon and Audible. Yeah. If you can listen to it, I'm on it. Your tin can with a string attached to it, Trek Untold is there as well. And what that show is, if you're a newcomer to the world of Star Trek, it is a weekly interview series that I do where I talk to folks across the Star Trek universe, whether that means that they're a character actor or a main cast member, writer, director, stunt person, VFX crew, composer, behind the scenes people, or even ancillary people outside of that working in the world of Star Trek. We talk to them about Trek, but we also talk to them about their other personal and professional experiences that led to what they do, led to who they are, and try to really paint a complete picture of who my guests are each week. And at the end of the day, learn some stuff about Trek, learn some stuff about whatever their profession is, educate yourself, entertain yourself. That's Trek Untold.
Awesome. And we're going to have those links down below, aren't we, Joe?
That's right. I think his link tree is available. You can click there and go to all his socials. All of them.
Things.
All the internets.
All of them.
Do all the interaction things you're supposed to do on YouTube.
Yeah.
Do it, guys. Do it. That's what we want to know. That's what it's all about. Share the love, guys. Share the love.
Don't
All
forget to
right.
like and subscribe to this channel.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like, share, and subscribe. Yeah.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button, guys. Let's go.
Smash it till it bleeds.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Matt, for having us. We really appreciate you coming in on the show. We really do, and we will definitely have you back to explore more of your collections. But thank you so much, Joe. It's been a pleasure as always.
As always,
And we'll see everyone on the next episode of Off the Shelf. See ya.
Take care. Check out SpectrumSanctorum.net for all of our podcast merch. We have an entire merch store ready to give you all the things that you loved about our podcast. And get notified on all of our socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and our Spectrum Sanctorum merch store. Follow us today and be sure to hit that bell when you're watching our YouTube videos so you can be notified of when a new episode releases.